You never leave the war. You always got it in your mind.
Brutal, unkind, and unrelenting. The Second World War brought 3 continents to the brink of collapse. The draft board called Wayne Peterhan's number in January of 1944. He witnessed the horrors of war aboard the 1,000-ship fleet destined to invade the Philippines, and months later delivered a message that would echo in eternity.
I was at the front lines as a teletype operator. The surrender came back through my teletype, and I sent it to NBC New York.
4 years of tough fighting had taken its toll. More than 400,000 Americans gave their lives. Those who survived shipped off to a foreign land, then back stateside, often without so much as a thank you. That thank you came Tuesday. For the dozens of veterans riding along on Mission 7 of the Mid-Michigan Honor Flight, this moment was years, even decades in the making.
The bulge was about ready to pop, and so they just took everybody, because we were in the Army, Air Corps, so it didn't make any difference. They could give you a rifle and you're an Army man.
The sergeant, now 91, may have left the battlefield, but still carries the war in his back pocket.
Could you have seen yourself coming to, these monuments?
No.
7 years later?
No. I never dreamt that this would be, all this would be happening.
3, 2, 1.
It was beautiful. I really appreciate it. It was just a great, wonderful day.
And one these brave men and women accepted with stunned silence, smiles, and inspiring humility.
Vets are resilient and humble. And when they get off the plane and tell me, Tricia, I got on this plane this morning as a private, but I feel like a 5-star general.
No matter where the tide of war takes them or leaves them, take this as proof. It's never too late to say thank you.
Because they got the collective hug from America. And that's why we're here, and that's why we do what we do.
I'm Charlie Tinker reporting.
I didn't realize, that was something that was like the beginning of a nightmare.
Jeff Culbertson was born addicted to drugs. As a kid, he remembers police raiding his house and his first encounter with heroin at the age of 9.
It just escalated from there because I always seen people doing it, and it's all I knew. And then around 13, 14 years old, I started shooting up.
Jeff is one of many, nearly 700,000 people who used heroin nationally in the last year. The problem is only getting worse. Signs can't stop it, and it's probably a lot closer to home than you know.
It is killing your neighbors. It is killing your kids. It's killing your friends' kids. People are dying from opiate deaths every day.
Lieutenant Dan King is the commander of the Traverse Narcotics Team. Because of what he does, King's identity has to remain a secret.
Very rarely did we see heroin in northern Michigan, and now we see it all the time. I think we'll easily see 50 to 60 cases, if not more, but importantly, those cases are becoming much larger. We're talking about 40 grams, 30 grams, 50 grams, 60 grams of heroin are now in northern Michigan.
September of this year, 1 pound of heroin was intercepted in Tennessee that was headed up to northern Michigan here.
Dealers move heroin into northern Michigan through distribution hubs. Missaukee County Sheriff Jim Bosher says dealers in Traverse City and Cadillac have found a new lucrative market with price markups that keep them coming back.
Up here, they're paying anywhere from $240 to $300 a gram. Down in the urban areas, you can buy that for $80 to $100.
But for Jeff, like most, it didn't start with heroin. It was the end result of a downward spiral that began with pills. An addiction to opiate drugs makes someone 40 times more likely to get hooked on harder drugs. In Michigan, between pills and heroin, overdose deaths went up 5-fold over the last decade alone. It's hard to pinpoint how big the problem truly is or where it's worst because deals happen in broad daylight and fly below the radar.
If you have the right connections and the right people, we can have heroin in 20 minutes.
Lieutenant King believes they've barely scratched the surface of northern Michigan's drug trade at 10 to 15% contained.
Is there any corner of the world of northern Michigan that's really immune to the effects of a drug like heroin?
It's across all levels. It's kids, it's adults, it's professionals.
Addiction don't discriminate. It goes everywhere, and it's a monster. It's a disease that's always going to be there.
Jeff's been clean for about a year now. He says sobriety opened his eyes to just how bad his life had gotten.
I got my son back after 7 years. I'm going to be getting married. I have stepkids. I have an 18-year-old daughter that calls me father, calls me her dad. That means a lot to me now.
Some of the obstacles Jeff faces in staving off relapse are the same challenges police face in enforcing the law. It's a mental problem and one that's impossible to control.
We can't cure this strictly with enforcement or anything like that. We have to cut off the need for it.
And I'm going to tell you right now, in northern Michigan, we need more help.
Charlie Tinker reporting.
She was a quintessential homemaker. She did the kids, she did the house.
Beautiful, religious, with an unmistakable kindness, Jeanette Robertson lived the life of an ordinary small-town girl.
She did everything that you would see on a 50s television show that a homemaker does. That's what she did. She did it to perfection.
Jeanette moved to Reed City back in 1983, where she worked at the pet store in the basement of what's now Reed City Hardware.
She would give her clothes off her back if she thought you needed them, literally. There wasn't anything she wouldn't do for anybody.
Then on January 19th, 1983, sometime between 1 and 4 p.m., Jeanette Robertson's ordinary life ended with extraordinary cruelty.
During broad daylight, basically, someone entered the store and killed Jeanette.
I was in the shower at home. It doesn't feel real. It still doesn't feel real because, you know, this stuff only happens to other people. This is like, it's like a book, you know, that you're reading and you go, wow.
It was a brutal murder.
The murder weapon, one or more different blunt objects noted in the original reports. Many of the details remain a mystery to the public, but speculation paints Jeanette's murder as a crime of passion.
I don't believe it's a person, you know, a stranger that happened to walk through town that day that did this. The injuries to her suggest that there were, you know, a fit of rage during this incident.
Newspaper clippings from the time show police were looking for people seen nearby, releasing 3 sketches based on witness descriptions of one man in particular.
There were people that were in the store that day, most of which I believe have been identified. At least one male subject that was never identified, so there were sketches put out to the public at that time.
That mystery man has never turned up, and investigators began to look at the people Jeanette knew best.
We always start in the inner circle of the victim and those closer to the victim and work outward. So Alvin was you know, a suspect at that time, the husband.
Detectives learned Alvin and Jeanette planned to divorce, even that he had a new girlfriend. But like the others, investigators eventually ruled Alvin out as a suspect. Fast forward to today, still no arrests and emerging tensions between police and the family.
Original people, police officers, messed up the crime scene. That's a big no-no. Even I know better. It was like this was a joke. This was a human being, and it was my sister.
Well, there were too many hands, too many different agencies working the case. When you get too many hands into something, there's something going to be missed. It's important to make sure that we do our best, the best job possible to get the answers.
If the day comes when police say, we're done, our investigation is over, we've been looking into this for far too long, it's been 34 years, are you prepared for something like that?
No. I will never give up hope that it'll be solved. I went to school here. I graduated from here. I knew these people. I just want to get a hold of them.